And this example will show you how to set up the desktop connector for Teamcenter Share. To start off, we'll show you how to download and install this from within Solid Edge. So if we go up to the application button, we can go to the sign in page and sign in to Teamcenter Share. We'll use our WebKey email address and password and go ahead and log in. Up at the top of the screen then we see the button to install the desktop connector. Now we can also do this from a web browser, so go ahead and switch over. Should look similar. It's the same style website here, and we have the same button up at the top. So I can go ahead and click install the desktop connector, and that'll go ahead and download it. If we click on the executable that was downloaded, we can then go ahead and install it. Now we'll be shown some terms and conditions. We can go ahead and agree to that and install it. Now if you've already installed the desktop connector, you may get an error like we see here, setup failed. That's because another version is already installed on your machine. So what we need to do is a full uninstall and clean up of the desktop connector. So I'm going to run through that now, and then I'll show you what to do once we get the desktop connector installed correctly. First thing we need to do is exit Share if it's still running. So I'm going to close out of this. So we go to our desktop, we can see down here in the tray that we have the connector running. So we want to go ahead and close out of that. So I'm going to right click, exit, and we will exit out of that. Now what you might also want to do is go through and clean out your browser history, plus the Internet Explorer browser history. Occasionally some of the sign-in items are stored there. So if you're having issues trying to install or any issues with the desktop connector, I suggest going through and cleaning out your browsing history and do a full uninstall. Now we can go ahead and open up our control panel. Going to uninstall a program. So what we need to do is uninstall the Siemens connector, and you may also have something in here called SCCS software. You need to uninstall that as well. That's another Siemens connector software, so make sure that gets uninstalled. So I'm going to go ahead and uninstall the connector, and then we'll move on from there. So once that's done uninstalling, we want to go check to see if we have a process still running. So I'm going to open up my task manager, and we're going to look for a process in here called SCCS. So again, I'm going to sort by name, and it does not look like it's running for me, so I'm good to go. If you do see an SCCS process in here, just go ahead and kill that and make sure you end that service. Now we need to delete a few locations of files. So we're going to browse out through our Windows File Explorer. We're going to go through C, Users, your username, and you may see a folder in here called Share or one called Connector, just depending on if you're a part of the early access or not. If you're installing this in a later version, it's going to be called Connector. The earlier versions of this was called Share. So if you see a folder in there, go ahead and delete that. Next, we're going to go in to our app data location, roaming, and then Siemens. Again, we're going to delete a folder in here called Connector. If you have an early access version, it may be called Share. Go ahead and delete that. Now there may be another folder in here called SPLM Auto Download. If you see that, go ahead and delete it as well. Next, we'll back up. We're going to go to the local folder. We'll go to Siemens. If there's a folder in here called Logs, go ahead and delete that, and then also delete the SCCS folder. Next, we'll go to C, Program Files, Siemens, And again, we'll look for a folder in here called Share. If you see a Share folder in this location, please delete that. One more location. We're going to go out to our Temp folder. So I'm going to browse out to Temp. And out in your Temp location, you may see a PL Drive folder. If you see that, get rid of it. And then any Share folders, whether it's called Share or Connector, you'll want to delete them. And it may be suggested just to completely delete your Temp folder because you may have some logs down here like Siemens connectors. So if possible, go ahead and just wipe out this Temp folder and get rid of all of these temp files. Okay, once that's done, we're going to go to our registry keys. So I'm going to go to the Start menu, type in regedit. We're going to go to Current User, Software, Siemens, and delete Share from the list here under Siemens. Again, I don't see this right now, but this is where we'll want to delete Share. Next, we'll go to Local Machine, Software, Siemens, and you'll see an SCCS folder underneath here. Delete that, and you may see a Share folder under here as well, and delete that one. All of these file locations will be listed in the PowerPoint, so if you need to pause the video and go check out the PowerPoint, please go ahead and do that. If you don't see any of these files in those locations, don't worry about it. You should be good to go. Once you've done all this, go ahead and reboot your machine, and then we can go ahead and install the desktop connector. Once you're done rebooting your machine, we'll go ahead and run the executable that we downloaded earlier. We can agree to the license and install, and this will set up the desktop connector. Once the setup is successful, we can launch the program. A few things we can do when the program launches. We can choose where we want to sync locally. You're going to have a default Share folder that is under your username. You can change this, but for now I'm going to stick with the default. If we have projects already created on the Share website, we can go ahead and select those projects. So I have a few projects created. I can grab which ones I want and click OK. We can always come back in the future and deselect any of these projects we don't want to sync locally. And if we create new projects, we can come in and select them to again have a local copy of them. So I'm going to select them all and click OK. Then we can select the file types that we want to sync both to the web and locally. So you can see all the different file types here. I'm going to go ahead and just select them all. Since I do a lot of demos, I use a lot of different file types, I may want to show off all the different files that we can work with. So I'm going to select all of those, click OK, and click OK on the Share directory. And now we can see here, or over on the left side, as I would see with Dropbox or OneDrive, I have a Share dropdown. If I go ahead and expand that, we can see we have both home and projects directories. So if we go ahead and select projects, we can see the different projects that were synced from the website, and now they are stored here locally. So if I go ahead and open one of them, we should have all of the files already downloaded and synchronized from the web to our local machine. So this is how we can set up the desktop connector for Teamcenter Share running with Solid Edge.